We're starting. We're live. Hello, everyone. A super delay because we had technical issues. We saw us in a weird techno style image, so we had to reinstall Skype on his end, and it took a little bit longer. I'm sorry. So we've got Us with us. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, and finally, I think people have been waiting to get a show on Edinburgh for a long time. We had lots of cool ones on Glasgow. We had lots of cool ones on Scotland in general, but like all the other things. But obviously, we've not had anyone talk about Edinburgh yet. So, Us.
Yeah.
I know you we know you for
Yes.
a long time, but do you want to quickly introduce yourselves? How did you end up in Edinburgh for starters, and what do you do in Edinburgh?
How I ended up? Yeah, quite a funny story probably. My wife and I, we decided to get married in Edinburgh. Wanted to do something different, so we organized ourselves some witnesses from the internet and got married in Edinburgh in 2009. And then the next day after the wedding, we embarked on our honeymoon through Scotland. And what happened basically was that we both fell in love with Scotland, the nature, the country, but also the people and how friendly and open-minded they were. So we decided to come back the same year, and the plan was hacked that we wanted to move to Scotland. Took us still some time. We moved here in 2012, and yeah, the rest, as I say, is history. We never regretted it. It was probably the best decision,
Yeah.
apart from getting married.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
careful.
She'll be watching.
Yeah, exactly.
No, absolutely true. So we've met through mutual blogger friends. Cash is to be mentioned here,
Yeah.
and we've been friends ever since. And we ended up almost in the same profession as well, because you're now a tour guide, and obviously
Yes.
we're tour guiding with the same passion for Scotland, as you just mentioned. So you do tours, mainly walking tours around Edinburgh, don't you?
Yeah. I several do some others, but mainly walking tours through Edinburgh in German,
Yes.
in German language. Yes, because
And Austrian.
Yes. I wanted to say it's almost my mother tongue because speaking proper German for an Austrian is an adventure by itself. But yeah.
So shall we delve right in, or
Yeah.
yes, because we said you were going to show us your favorite spots, or like kind of give us a bit of a like what you would do on a normal Edinburgh tour. So, and you've made some lovely pictures yourself. For a couple of others, we've kind of looked up if we had some pictures of ourselves that we can add to the whole thing. So, I don't know, where shall we start?
Carlton Hill.
Wherever you like, yeah. Because the thing is, with quite often when we talk about the things, we just like, and nowadays maybe some travelers want to get away from all the parts where everyone goes, tourists are going. But there is also, on the flip side, there's a reason why everybody wants to go, and yeah, probably the most famous view of Edinburgh is from Carlton Hill, where wherever you look up Edinburgh, you will find a picture from Carlton Hill over the old town. Probably you got the Dougal Stewart monument in front of you, and old town Edinburgh Castle, of course, in the backdrop.
Yeah.
It's just a great place to be because it's easy accessible. There's no hassle to go up Carlton Hill. Everyone can do it. You can walk around it. You can. It's a overall view over Edinburgh. You can see to the further forth. You can see the New Town. You can see Old Town. You can see everything. And also there are some nice places there. You get the National Monument and Nelson Monument, of course. So it's a great place to be. It's an obvious choice, but it's great. Honestly, it's definitely on a nice sunny day, you can spend some time just to lay around in the grass and enjoy the weather and the view, obviously.
has quite the history. Like it's so say like for this eclipse, everyone was up
Yeah.
there, and obviously for the 1st of May, or like for Beltany, people go up. It's
Yeah.
very mystical, isn't it?
And it's quite interesting because when you go up, like if you want to see the sunset, there are loads and loads of people and waiting there and preparing their
Yeah.
everything, preparing the camera for the perfect spot, for the perfect moment. It's great for all the kind of things. Definitely well recommended. And as I said, because it's really easy to get up on Calton Hill.
Yeah. Because you
And you
have
can
2 ways to get up, don't you? You can either do the steps, or you can do the
yes.
long way and then kind of see the Firth of Forth.
Yes. And also you have different ways up from the Newton area. You can go up from Newton area as well. You can take a different route. So it's quite easy to manage for everyone. And when you go up the usual part, the usual way, then it's quite easy. When you go the long way around, it's very scenic, I have to say, because then you can see the backdrop, and you on a nice day you can see Bass Rock in North Berwick. So
That's true. Yeah.
it's great. Yeah.
So see, like you said, you mainly welcome German speaking visitors. So how much do you have to explain to them about Edinburgh to start with? Do they know a lot when they come here, or do you have to really give an overview first for them to understand what's to be seen? Or
It's all sorts of things, I have to say, because it's very different. Because of course some of them are just come here without any clue what Edinburgh is and how it looks. They probably saw it and got a nice cheap flight and just decide, go there for 2 days on a weekend break. And these kind of people are quite surprised when they come in, because they looked it up. Well, it's not that big, so 2 days, that's fine.
Yeah.
But when they see how much they can see, how much they can do, they realize it's never enough. I mean, 2 days is not really enough for Edinburgh. But also you have regulars, people who come here quite often. I, for myself, I had one girl, she was on my walking tour 4 times because she was studying here, and every time she got friends or family visiting her, she brought them along, and we're like, well, why should I bother to show them the city? Just
you can do it so much better.
Yeah, go along, show them everything. So so it's completely different types of travelers, of tourists, because as I said, some of them are just like have been here in Edinburgh and Scotland in general for loads of times. Others are quite new. So it depends.
On the one hand, I do think you're right. Like, Edinburgh is one of those cities where you could spend days and days and days and still find something that you didn't know of, even like years later. But at the same time, it's also correct when tourists think it is okay to come here for 2 days, because it is compact. You can kind of, with an overview, manage to see the whole city, and you feel like you've grasped what it's all about. But if you want to dive into the depth of it, then you need more time. It's not like, say, Madrid or Berlin, where everything's so spread out, or even London. It's completely different like that. So okay, so talk us through.
The one thing I might would add is, if you come to Edinburgh, explore it on foot.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I would definitely recommend to everyone, because like loads of, especially big cities, it makes sense maybe to go on a hop on, hop off bus.
Yeah.
But Edinburgh, because it's compact, but also there are loads of places you can't drive through.
Yeah.
So it's just, you have to go and explore it and just take everything in, because there is so many things otherwise you would miss.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's
I mean, even us, I mean, we class ourselves as locals now. We can go for walks during the day, whether it's in Old Town, New Town, towards Leith. Anywhere we go, we're still stumbling across buildings, streets, old churches, old marketplaces, old anything, from on a day-to-day basis. So, I mean, even if you do spend a week here of your holidays, you're still not going to find every cool little secret,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's,
give us your tour. What how do you normally start it, or what, like, and we'll just try to pick up the pictures as you speak.
yeah, the thing is, normally it would depend which kind of tour it is where I would start. But where I wanted to start mainly would be Edinburgh Castle, because it's just the obvious thing to see. And Edinburgh Castle is, for me also, when I grew up, I was really in all things like medieval. I was never really like a cowboy type. I was always the knight type. So first time we came to Edinburgh, and I got off the bus on Waverley Bridge, and I could see Edinburgh Castle, and it was in the morning. It was like a sunny day, and I was like, whoa. It's a really impressive building from the outside, but it's also from the inside. It's very, very cool place because of history as well. But the views from there are just amazing. And for me, it's also quite funny because I do loads of tours in Edinburgh Castle. Normally, at this time of year, would probably be 4 days a week inside Edinburgh Castle doing tours. It's when you go in and people realize for the first time how big it actually is, because you don't realize it from the outside, because it's just like different levels. So when people go in and then realize how big it is, and they're just like, wow, why didn't I see that from the bottom?
Yeah.
And then when you stop for the first time inside Edinburgh Castle at the Argyle Battery, and normally I bring my group on one side so they can overlook the north part near Firth of Forth. And generally it's mainly the same reaction of everybody, which is like this, because it's such a beautiful view. You can see the Firth of Forth, you can see the new town, loads of green spaces, obviously. So it's a great way to introduce people, because quite often they go very early to Edinburgh Castle, so they didn't really take in loads of views over the city. And when they first time go in Edinburgh Castle, and then they have this beautiful view in front of them, it's like an aha moment for loads of people.
Yeah.
That's
I think you're
a
right.
nice feeling.
On the one hand, you can see the castle from almost anywhere in the city, and on the other hand, you can understand why the castle was built there, because obviously you can see very, very far. So as in, if it was ever to be sieged, or someone was kind of trying to attack, you would know days in advance, because you can see almost miles ahead.
Yeah. And what I would also recommend in this case is, if anybody wants to see Edinburgh Castle, either book a tour or take an audio guide.
Yeah.
Because if you just go on your own, I mean, it's cool that the views are the same, but it's just like the explaining what it is, what's it about, and there are some cool stories happened there as well. I have to say that I really like the audio guide, because they got a new audio guide there. I don't know if you have heard it, because they prepared a new audio guide, but then the lockdown happened. So they did put it online, so you could listen to it online. And I did it, and it's quite cool, because they got some interesting, they have a narrator, but they have also some quite well-known famous people who bring in some different sides. For example, Ian Rankin is talking about the inspirations, because one of his reboot stories was with a murder in the Edinburgh Castle. You have Saoirse Ronan, who played Mary Queen of Scots in the movie with the same name, talking about Mary Queen of Scots. And then also you have George R.R. Martin talking about his inspirations, talking about the Black Dinner, his main inspiration for the Red Wedding. So it's a cool thing to do. I mean, obviously I would say take a tour, take a guide. But if you don't want to splash out the money, take an audio guide, because it's
So what
they are
would you
quite
say
good.
is your favorite story when you take people up to Edinburgh? What's, obviously, like you said, there's so many stories. I like what I can say what I like to point out. Actually, you pointed it out to me to start with. But if you had to pick one story about Edinburgh Castle that you like, which one is it?
It's I mean, for geeks, it's probably the Black Dinner story, which became the main inspiration for the Red Wedding, because he just combined it with the Highlander massacre in Glencoe. That's one. The other one probably is the story of Thomas Randolph when they ransacked the castle with just a handful of people.
Okay, so tell us the Black Dinner. So what's the story about the Black Dinner?
The Black Dinner, where just try to keep it as short as possible, because it's
We're here. We want to know.
Otherwise, it's the whole episode. It's just like where King James, which he was an infant, so people who advised him, his advisor, said we have to bring in the clan. As you heard, they just like they became very the clan became very, very big. They had lots of influence, so they brought them for negotiations, but then basically betrayed them, dragged them out of, brought them into the corner and just beheaded them all. And there was just like a big betrayal going on.
So they just got rid of their opponents, and that was that.
Yeah, because there's loads of references, because also it started then with music, which the Red Wedding starts with music, and there are loads of hints also in the Red Wedding where George R. Martin, you can see
where they got the story from.
Where they got it from. So it's quite interesting when you know the backstories and where George R. Martin got his inspirations from. When you then watch it back and just like, oh yeah, can see it now.
So do you struggle with people having knowledge of, because obviously Edinburgh attracts a lot of literary fans. You mentioned Ian Rankin, but obviously Harry Potter is a big one because it was written in Edinburgh. Game of Thrones, I wouldn't have said so much Edinburgh, but obviously Game of Thrones was filmed in parts of Scotland, mainly Northern Ireland, but like a lot of scenes were also up here. What else have we got? Avengers and stuff. So do people, and Outlander obviously is a big one. Yeah. So do they all come with specific knowledge, and then you have to juggle what was actually real and what's literary truth? Is that?
Well, sometimes it is, and I find it quite interesting, because then you have some of them who are clueless about all these kind of things, and others were like they're really geeky about it, and then you have to juggle to engage with the one but not leave out the others. So it's just it's always a bit of a maybe ask me more in between when we go somewhere or whatever, because otherwise other people will feel left out, because sometimes it's like that.
Yeah.
It also depends, because if it's a small private group, then it's easier, because then they are more focused on one thing.
Yeah.
If it's a broader group, then it's just the juggling.
Yeah.
Because you can't talk then about just one specific thing, and the other were
I haven't read the book. I haven't seen the series. I don't know what they're talking about. Yeah.
But as you said, I mean, there are, especially with movies and stuff, there's so much going on, and you can do a whole tour, just go through all the places they've been in movies. And funnily enough, in one of the pictures I sent you could also see the film crew for Trainspotting 2, where
shall we show that? Yes, Arthur's Seat.
So we got the Arthur's Seat photo here.
Yeah, we walked up Arthur's Seat, and it was just the film crew was there, and we were interrupting, and can you wait for a second? And we are filming, and we're oh yeah, there's Ewan McGregor, and it's quite cool that you just quite often you ran into movie scenes.
Yes.
By chance, but also you can just walk through different movies. You can build a whole tour through Edinburgh for just movie scenes. And I mean, Avengers is obviously is huge, but then also we just mentioned Trainspotting, and the newest one probably is on Netflix, Eurovision.
Exactly.
Well, we have to say that the hydro is still in Glasgow.
Yeah.
Yes, it's actually amazing. You look online, the amount of Glaswegian people have got their nose out of a joint.
Yeah.
That we're saying that Glasgow Airport is Edinburgh
yeah.
Airport, but we've stolen hydro. You know, it's that
The best one is when they're going down with the car to George the Fourth Bridge, and then to the end is the hydro, and we're like, wouldn't really fit there, but
you can demolish a bit.
Scale is completely off.
Okay, let's show your Arthur Seat picture, because well, we showed the Trainspotting one, but the view one, that's just amazing. So you must have gone all the way up to the peak of
Yes. At different parts of and then the walk, the different pictures. Arthur Seat is, I mean, not probably accessible for everybody. So if you have a problem with walking, or if it was raining before, because it could be slippery. If you want to go the whole way, because the last part is quite slippery, because it's Baltic rocks. It's just like really the rocks, and they can be slippery. So it's not as easy accessible. But the views are just incredible. I mean, both Arthur Seat and Southbury Craig, they are great views, and also you have quite nice parts on the way up. See the swans and have a lake and whatever. So it's just like it's in really great.
We couldn't show the view earlier from Carton Hill, but obviously Carton Hill would be half of this, but you can see all the way to the bridges. You can see all over. You overlook the whole Firth of Forth. We've just could put up the picture of this little swan lake, St Margaret's Loch at the bottom. So Arthur Seat is definitely. Do you ever go with one of your tours? Probably not. It's too much.
No, not with the tours, because it's just too far, and it's just like you would miss out so much else. So I myself don't.
It's definitely one that we all, like, everyone would recommend.
But
if you're,
I would,
if
I definitely recommend it to everyone who is interested in. Also, like sometimes, especially people who come maybe in summer, and quite a lot of people didn't expect to find people that busy, because they didn't realize the festivals and everything, that it's huge. So they can be overwhelmed, and it was just like, if you want to go just for a hike, even you have to say that there are loads of people on Arthur Seat, but still, I mean, there's enough space if you don't want to go up to the top, because the top is then small place and crowded.
Yeah.
But the rest is you can manage easily. You can, that there are not too many people, because it's huge. It's a vast place, so it's easy to avoid.
Yeah, you're right. Like, obviously, the old town can get crowded quite quickly. The new town is spread a little bit more already, but then basically Arthur Seat is about 10-minute, 50. Well, if you're slow, 20-minute walk away, and then, like you said, yes, some path will be quite crowded, but the rest is like vast countryside almost, isn't it? So
because
that's the thing about Edinburgh, isn't it? So that
cross country, because different paths. So it's whatever you prefer. Go through the road, go up, just like whatever you like. It's fine. You can do it. It's more difficult, but you can do it. So
one thing I wanted to mention was, and also don't go when it's too windy. Suzanne and I did a social distance walk the other day, like this is now a month ago, I think, and it was so windy, and almost felt like you got blown over. So you couldn't go any further up because it was too dangerous.
Yeah, and take some sun cream.
Yeah.
Because that's very important to point out, because people like Scotland, and if it's a sunny day, because the sun is quite high, and there's nowhere to hide, so it's just like loads of people come back with sunburn. So
that's actually true.
But frequently, that's the advice I would give.
Yeah, talking about like sort of getting away from the crowds. I mean, we live in the area, but the new town is always that little bit quieter. It's more residential, but it's pretty much no less like picturesque. There's so much to actually see. The amount of times we'll bring people into the new town, and just seeing their faces, just row after row of these Georgian buildings, You know, on your walking tours, do you spend much time wandering in further down into the second phase of the new town? Not so much the first phase where you've got George Street, Princess Street, but do you ever get much of a chance to get down into the other parts of the new town
And
just to give people a bit of a
unfortunately, not
break?
really. Apart from maybe some like private book tourists who are interested, then you can take them. For the rest, it's because of the time scale normally. I would really like to, because the new town is, especially the weird thing is with German speaking tourists, when they hear the word new,
Yeah.
they're not interested.
Yeah.
It is like that. It's just like, well, yeah, but we want to see the original part and whatever. But the new town is incredible,
Okay.
and especially, I mean,
Show the next Newton.
you can really admire it from above, because when you see it from above, then you can see the layout, and it's just incredible with these beautiful houses, so much space, so much green space in between as well.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful. And for from an architectural point, the new town is definitely more important than the old town, and it's not really that new, we have to say. But that's, for people, quite often, I mean for tourists especially, quite often it's in the word new town, so then they are not as interested probably. So you have to
So how do you
bring
explain that
them.
then? So because obviously Newtown is just in reference because it's newer than the old town.
Yeah.
But once you explain it, are they then more interested, or?
Oh, yeah. Especially when you explain about the layout and what you can see, not only how old actually the new town is, but it's also like the layout, the architecture, and everything. And then they're like more like, all right, yeah, now I'm interested. Now I'm hooked. But before that, because it's just in the name, it's like, yeah, new town. Yeah, well, we got some new towns at home as well.
Yeah.
It's that's quite interesting that you can see it. And it's also because now back with literature, with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because the whole Edinburgh is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because you have the new town,
Yeah.
which is like clean and nice and everything, and the old town, like the Mr. Hyde part, where the bad things happen and whatever. So there's loads of things to discover and on both sides, and some real gems. There's the Portrait Gallery, is a beautiful building by itself, and you can set yourself a task and go look for signs from the Freemasons on the building and stuff like that. So it's quite interesting.
Yeah, and obviously Edinburgh has UNESCO cultural heritage for architecture because of the old town and the new town, the two
Yeah.
things together, because there's so much old building material still kind of in its entirety. And also it is sometimes very interesting for some people to actually realize that the old town buildings as such are sometimes actually younger than the new town ones, even though obviously they're made to look older because they try to kind of be in keeping with what it looked like in the medieval times. But a lot of the buildings
The
fell
growing.
apart. Well, exactly, they fell apart in the old days because they didn't really care about architectural security and stuff. And when they rebuilt them, they built them in the same place, so it looks like they're still old, but actually, if you look at the actual date when they were built, it's not exactly older. So this is another one where people get confused because it says Old Town, and of course the way it's kind of laid out, it's
Yeah.
older.
I think with the old town, you get the feeling
Yeah.
of the old town, because the closes, I mean, there's so many beautiful closes, so many hidden gems. And when you think about these old stories and you go down some of the closes, then you get this feeling, especially maybe it's a foggy day, maybe then you just like, oh, is the Jack the Ripper hiding somewhere or something?
Exactly.
It gives you a different feeling.
Yeah, I always say, it's no wonder that Scottish people are good storytellers. If you look at Edinburgh alone, you can see how this and the fog, you have to come up with ghost stories. You have to come up with all these. And I do think, probably every city in the world has, or that has a heritage, has dark stories to tell. But
Yeah.
over here, they're just so much more, real, because you just feel like I can totally hear the stomping foots of someone following me, trying to
Yeah.
murder me, and this kind of. I'm not surprised that people like feel like Edinburgh is a bit haunted.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
especially if you consider the older days where they still got the Norloch, now the Princess Gardens with all the things that are going on in the Norloch, and then you go down maybe on a foggy day, you had something to drink, and they were like, well, yeah, of course there are ghosts. So it's just like it's this kind of feeling where you're just like, well, we can totally see that.
But also probably as well, because on a very compact area, there's so many cemeteries as well, which now have notoriety again, a little bit because of Harry Potter. But these, you just realize how many people are dead right where you just walk, because there wasn't enough space for them to be anywhere else. So I do feel like that adds to the mystical, ghosty.
Yeah, I mean, even when you walk around the streets of Edinburgh, there's so many churches which you must know during time would have had graveyards around them. I mean, even something as famous as St Giles. You've got car park and footpath all the way around it, but you would have had bodies and graves around because it was it was really important to get buried as close as you could to the holy ground there, so you'd get up there quicker. So walking around day to day, you just don't know what is underneath you. You got like Mary Queen's Close and that the whole parts of the community were just walled up and bricked over. So you want to know what you got, the dungeons underneath as well. So you're just walking around day to day. It's like the reason there is no underground metro system in Edinburgh like there is in Glasgow, because
where would you
dig? It's all so much history.
It is. Also, you can go like where you said St. Charles Cathedral, you walk around and then go to the car park, and then there's John Knox.
Exactly. But it's a good one, isn't it? When you ask people, so what's missing here? Can you something's missing, and then it takes a while for them to realize, doesn't it? So you took some awesome pictures, not just of the old town, but also further down Leith. So let's talk about that for a moment, because you've got some really nice. We actually should we maybe mention Greyfriars Bobby first? Is that our picture or yours?
Ours.
Okay. Did you want to mention him, Bobby?
Well, Bobby is it's quite an interesting thing, because like statues in general, with famous statues, when you see them, they're normally quite underwhelming. It's like if you've ever been to Copenhagen, for example, or stuff, and you're just like, well, and it's in the middle of nowhere, so you can see the Mermaid. But Bobby itself is, because it's life size, or supposed to be life size.
Yeah.
It's quite often people are like, oh, we walked past it already. Oh yeah, we did. It's right over there.
You see all the people stop to rub his nose too, which is
the rubbing thing. I always I warn people not to rub the nose. I mean, it's their choice.
We don't want it to go.
But I say to them, don't rub it.
Yeah, but behind it, obviously, is Greyfriars Kirkyard, and do you want to quickly tell the story about Bobby and how do you normally? Because there's so many angles to that story, isn't there? Like people know it from Disney, but and it's also one of these stories is how much is actually true about it. Is a very layered thing, so it's just like it's like, but Bobby kept waiting on his owner's grave 14 years. So it's just like, well, was 2 years old by this time, so 16 years, probably not. So that's also quite loads of people are like, because he got famous, people came and visiting him and wanted to see this loyal dog. So there's also people are like arguing that he died before that, but got replaced. Another dog. So people came back and spending money in the pubs around, and just like, so it's quite interesting. There's also a ghosty angle to it, isn't it?
Yeah. So and also it's like people sometimes really think that Bobby is actually buried when you can go up, because he wasn't buried there. It was just like a headstone for Bobby, so people can go there and gather. And it was just like straight in the way in. So it's just like, okay, there you are.
Yeah.
If you're not interested in the rest, just head back out.
Yeah.
I do think, as much as humans are interesting to people, a lot of people are really interested in animals. And I believe there's not many cities in the world that have monuments to animals. You always see that, like, there's Edinburgh, there's another, I can't even think of what the other city is, where they also have a dog statue, so that these statues are twinned now. So that's quite a nice angle to it, if you wish.
Yeah, and Edinburgh also got a bear.
Of course.
Yes. Vortex, yeah.
That's it. Like, but that's actually a true story for once.
Yeah. Yeah. But Bobby gets all the attention. Also, there's the Disney movie and things like that. There's also, I think, one of the episodes from Lassie was inspired by it. So it's just like there are loads of things. But in general, Greyfriars Kirket is a very interesting one. Of course, for Harry Potter fans, for obvious reasons, because you get the names of Thomas Riddle, and also William McGonagall, and this also with the Harriet School in the backdrop. So like loads of Harry Potter themed tours, and interested people go there as well, of course.
Cool.
But also because of like the Mordsave for grave robbers. It's quite interesting when you see that. It's just like people are like really like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And like, they had a zombie problem. People came back on and keep them down. So
and then of course you can go into the Burke and O'Hare stories as well, as as where robbing came from, and body snatchers, and you can link it to the the medical university there as well.
Yeah,
everything sort of links.
And it's also because people don't realize how important and influential Scotland in general, but Edinburgh in particular, was for medicine. And not only that, with David Hume and Adam Smith and all these people, they were like shaping the world we are living in right now to a big part. So
I mean, I constantly joke, it's like you think of something you use every day, it was invented in Scotland. And people are like, yeah. And then they start thinking, and it's like, well, you're actually not far from true.
It's incredible, because the funny thing in this one is normally people think about is England, we're all Scottish.
Yes. But we have to be careful.
Okay, so let's go down to Leith now to show your pictures from there, because that was really lovely. The shore pictures you had. So that is obviously the one bit which is not as close to the old town or the new town, because it's it used to be a complete separate city, if you wish.
But if you're interested in that, I mean, then there are nice ways to do it, because if you're looking around, if you had just make a day out of it, and you walk around Newtown, and then you go Stockbridge, go through the Water of Leith. There's a nice pathway. You can see Dean Village, which is beautiful. It doesn't take that long because it's quite small. But it's completely different. It's something completely different again, because that's the other thing. When you go through Edinburgh, there's so many different layers. It's just like everything is something new pops up. Also, I was just joking with some my friends, like all over the world, and we were like, it just changes with the light.
Yeah,
the city changes so much with the light, and there's so many different lights going on, because of wind as well. So it's just like constantly changing because of the
clouds.
And also because we're so far north, the light gets broken up in the atmosphere, and that gives you all the colors. So I always say, whenever you see pictures of Scotland, you sometimes think, they photoshopped that, or they put a filter on. And when people are actually here, I'm like, look, there's no filter, and it still looks the same. As in, the color shades are so much more. And I always feel like the landscape looks more 3D than it actually is. It's just, there's so much depth in it all. And you're right. So in the morning, in the evening. You know, you've got rainbows very often, so that makes
Definitely. And for myself, because like I'm from an area in Austria, it's called Styria, and it's also called the Green Styria. And first time I traveled to Scotland, and especially the Highlands, it's like, well, that's really green, because there are so many shades of green in Scotland. Because in Austria normally it's like 1, 2 green. This is the trees and grass. But if you go to like the Highlands, for example, it's really, really incredible how many different shades of green you can find.
Yeah.
It's really, really heavy green. It's just like strong.
Yeah.
So I was quite surprised by that, because we were like, well, yeah, we called the green cereal, but it's not that green. But yeah, there we go. Because there's lots of wood. But yeah. But also when you go down, the Botanic Garden is a beautiful place to be. It's a beautiful place to visit. Apart from myself, maybe because I'm allergic to almost everything. So for me, it's always like but it's great to see the Botanic Gardens. And if you just walk down, you arrive at the shore, and the shore is a quite nice place to be, especially also for drinking and eating, because there are like really good pubs, good food, and nice places to sit and drink your beer and enjoy.
Yeah.
So
but you can see the history as well, can't you? Because and it's
because
the train spotting is not so far off, because you on the one hand see the really poor area, which probably in the 70s and 80s would have been almost derelict, and you see the rich merchants, you know, well, storage places, but also houses. So it was like a typical harbour area, wasn't it, where there's so much going on.
In early parts, it was just like all the like seamen were living there, and it was poor part, but then like loads of money got thrown in. Nowadays you can also find probably most expensive restaurant there, so it's just like it's completely changed. You can, as you said, see, you don't have to go far and see like still poorer parts, but it's just like it's a nice,
it's an eclectic mix,
especially on a beautiful day.
Yeah, and like when we had our tour with Lindsay about the whiskey, so she was telling us how much the whiskey actually, the whiskey trade, you know, whiskey wasn't particularly made in Leith, but it was traded from there and brought a lot of affluence with other goods, obviously. But yeah, so I think Scotland overall, as a seafaring country, has, you know, accumulated wealth, but also strategic importance in the world, and that is such.
Yeah, and also the law was different. Leith pubs could open longer than Edinburgh, so it was just like people were walking from Edinburgh, like, go to Leith, have another drink,
get an extra hour.
Yeah, so it's just like, yes.
So that's like, unfortunately, how long has Leith been part of Edinburgh now? Almost 100 years, isn't it? Yeah. So obviously the laws are now the same. Unfortunately,
I myself, I live near Leith Walk, so and then it's also like Leith Walk itself changed completely in 5 years or so.
And it'll change more now when the tram is finalized.
Yeah, now the tram even more.
That'll really bring a difference.
Yeah, it's more like a student hipster part now.
Yeah, that's it. Well, we've pretty much only sort of scratched the surface. You know, we've sort of gone almost 45 minutes. And there's still so much more. You know, we've still got a big list of photos, and you know, we could have kept going longer and longer. Sort of gone through Holyrood and still parts of the old town and in the West End and
and also
we still got new parts of Newtown,
like Portobello or Cremont or
So we could have gone forever, mate. But it was really cool. It was really cool having a chat with you and getting to see you again. We've all been in lockdown, so
say hi to the beautiful wife, and
I will do.
We will do. It's been great to chat. So we'll wind up here, and then we'll catch up with you in a wee minute.
All right. Good to see you.
Thanks again, mate. Bye. All right. Well, we don't actually have anyone booked for
Next
week,
yeah,
so it is a mystery. So keep your eye out, and we'll let you know what's coming up. But until then, stay safe as we are sort of getting a bit more freedom to wander around. Keep your eye out, and we will be launching our new website very, very soon, probably in the next week or so.
Oh.
We've had a big rebrand and everything. Beryl and the folk in our design department have been nutting out fine details, so that's something to keep your eye out, probably on Facebook and on Twitter. So we're getting ready for the opening of the season, which we hope will be in the next few weeks.
Yeah, it should be 15th of July if everything goes well. So
yes.
then we're open for business again.
All right then. So until then, stay safe, and we will see you again. Bye bye for now.